Friends, if you joined us, this is the workshop C5 entitled Biblical Practices for Faithful Living, New Curriculum for the Whole Church. And presenting today are David Maxwell, Vice President of Curriculum and Church Resources, and Meg Rift, Curriculum Editor, both with the Presbyterian Publishing Corporation. We invite you to remain muted and post any questions that you have in the chat, and I'll moderate those, and some we may get to immediately and some we may hold till the end. But we recommend that you use the speaker view in your Zoom window to make best use of the way we're doing things here. So with that, David and Meg.
Hello. We're really happy to have you here. We're excited to talk about and show you pieces of our new curriculum, Follow Me. We have a slideshow presentation, which I will put up, and we'll kind of go from there and introduce ourselves again. Just a sec, let me start it. Okay, so hopefully everybody sees a big Follow Me screen. Yep, you're seeing that, great. Okay, we're gonna start by just giving you a little more background about who we are. David?
Sure. David Maxwell. I've been at PPC since 2004. For purposes of this hour, I am one of the editors. I'm the adult and youth editor for Follow Me, this new curriculum. I've mostly been involved at PPC around producing adult resources. Thoughtful Christian, I was the editor for the Thoughtful Christian program, and the hymnal, I was served on the hymnal committee for the press, and also recently the Book of Common Worship revision. And I do all of the leader resources for elders and stuff.
Hi, and I'm Meg Rift, as Vaughn said. I'm a curriculum editor. I work primarily with the children's curriculum, but I've been on the developmental, editorial, and/or writing teams for quite a few curriculums in the past. We Believe Workshop, Vacation Bible School, Awesome Adventures, Professing Our Faith Confirmation Curriculum, Big Questions Confirmation Curriculum, and now I get to be a part of this new curriculum, Follow Me, Biblical Practices for Faithful Living. I'm also a pastor and have served several churches in Illinois and Kentucky, always in the area of Christian education and faith formation. And that's been a really nice, unexpected balance in my life to go kind of back and forth between the two different areas of ministry, and writing and editing and developing curriculum, and being in the parish and being with children and people in the pews, and seeing how that kind of plays out in real life and bringing those experiences with me. So that's been really fun. We are going to show you, like I said, the slideshow about Follow Me, show you some of the curriculum pieces and what it's all a part of. If you have been have joined in any of the PCUSA bookstore, there's been some presentations. Those were kind of abbreviated, so this will be much more in depth. So don't think you're just getting the same thing. If you're interested in it and you've come for that reason, if this is brand new to you, we welcome you and are excited to show you this. So we'll get going. And there we go. About a year and a half ago, we started thinking about we needed a new curriculum for the church, for the whole church. Feasting on the Word, thank you, FOW, Feasting on the Word curriculum, which is our lectionary curriculum, is entering its fourth cycle. So that's 12 years old about. So we kind of started saying, what do people want now? What is it we're looking at? And so we started conversations and surveys. And we talked with many, many different groups of people, and we learned some things. And so one of the things we learned was that, oh, sorry, went the wrong way. Okay, hold on, having a technical difficulty. There we go. People wanted to learn from the Bible and how to be a disciple, which is kind of a no-brainer. That's what we want in curriculum. But we started talking with, well, what does that mean that you want to learn from the Bible? It's, they want Bible study, they want life application. But some of those things were mentioned, or what are those things that we do that continually form our faith? And what is it that fosters a sense of belonging and identity? And we started to identify through all these conversations that were happening with others in other denominations and that we were seeing talked about in different places, this idea of what are Christian practices? And they are what we do individually and together to follow Jesus. Some of the other things we learned from our conversations and surveys was some of the more practical aspects of what a curriculum looks like. People wanted different age levels. They wanted to know, like, what do the Bible stories say at different ages, and what would a Christian practice look like at different ages? So different age levels was important to people in curriculum. People were starting to talk about intergenerational education, not just worship, and how do we do education together as a whole people. And people wanted more flexibility and adaptability. And so they were interested in units as opposed to a dated quarterly curriculum. They wanted something that they could kind of put into their program, whether it would be 4 weeks at a time, or we take a break, or there's a special season. They wanted that flexibility. So we looked at 4 sessions per unit, 12 units per year, and that we would release those quarterly, but that they would be available anytime, forming a library. So those are the kind of things we heard, and guess what? That's what we did. So we started talking about, how are we approaching faith practices? What does that mean to us? And as we started looking at that, one of our writers, Michelle Bartel, told us the story of her dog, Zippy. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Zippy the dog. Zippy, she would come, as most dogs do, come and bark at her, pull on her pant leg, motion towards the door. And she thought, what is it you want me to come and see? Zippy wants to show me something. Zippy wants me to follow him. And she had this great aha moment. And our faith tradition in scriptures are the stories of the people of God trying to be in relationship with God and follow God's ways. And God speaks through the prophets to call people back to God. Jesus comes to show us the way to God. And his call is to follow me and come and see. So she started going, oh my gosh, that's what it is. It's like Jesus pulling at our pant leg or motioning, saying, come and see, follow me. I want to show you something. I want to show you the way to God. And what Jesus does and do and embodied, and what we see in the scriptures, are those things that people have done over time. And those are what we call faith practices. Now, we could have, I'm sorry about that. We could have chosen, any number of faith practices. There's a lot of things that Jesus did and said or embodied. We chose 36 because we were writing curriculum and we were creating a 3-year practice of curriculum. So you can say, you could argue with us and say, oh, there's only 20, or oh, there's 84. But we chose 36, and you'll take a look at those in a sec and see what you think about them. Those are the things that we do. We pay attention, we learn, we get up and we go, and we look to those things that Jesus did and embodied, and what Christians have done over time. And these practices can be found in the Hebrew scriptures, the Gospels, the epistles. These practices are what we do to strive to follow Jesus. We wonder what we do. Why is it we baptize? Or why is it we have hope? Thinking of Amy Kim's plenary today. How do we do these things? We wonder why we do certain things. Why do we have a food pantry in our church? Or why is it that we have Bible study? Or what is it that when we sing in church, why are we singing these songs? So there's things that we do and we wonder why we do them. And then we wonder what it means to be Christian now and through the ages, in juxtaposition to those who claim the name and those who practice different faith traditions. I think in the last few years, it's become very apparent that we often say, wait a minute, there's a group of people or individuals who are using the name Christian, but they seem to be doing things differently than I thought it meant to follow Jesus. So this is that kind of sense of, what does it mean to have an identity as Christian? What is it that Jesus is calling us to do? And we need to keep practicing these things. It's not a one and done. It's something we do over and over. It's lifelong. So all through the ages of our life and through the ages in a congregation, we can be practicing these things. We do them individually and we do them in community. And we practice because this is what it means to follow Jesus to God. And ultimately what it means to love God. I so love go, that should be love God. As an editor, I'm editing and saying that should be God, and love neighbor. So David.
Yeah. So, yeah, so in the next few minutes, we're going to walk through this curriculum, all the different pieces of it. If you've received, APSI is usually our time where we announce new things. This is, we created a sampler. Some of you may have received it if you registered by a certain time. Others will be receiving it, but we're going to walk through the sampler. It's also available online. If you do have it, we did this presentation before and we were asking, please just watch the slides here, and then we'll go through the sampler here in a bit. This is the design for the curriculum. We've used a kind of stained glass look for all of the covers. It's a very pretty color. Every age level gets their color, but it all ties together. So here are the list of practices. You know, we are building a library, like Meg said. There will be, 3 years from now, there will be 36 of these up. And you'll be able to, you know, create your own sequence of how you want to use these. We've put them together in a sequence that, as we release them, that we think will fit well with the church year. On the one hand, this curriculum it's a different approach, but actually every session is pretty much like any curriculum you use. You know, there's an opening activity, a closing activity. We do Bible study every session. But rather than spend, you know, 12 weeks on the parables or 12 weeks on the Gospel of Matthew or something, we're spending 4 weeks looking at something that Jesus said or did and how that connects, what Bible stories talk about that, and how can we deepen our own practice of that.
You want to just mention about the church year again, point out the practices that.
Oh, yeah. The ones with 6. So when we did all of our survey, we weren't surprised. People said they wanted shorter studies that they could use and not commit to a whole quarter necessarily. But they also said, and they said 4 was a good number. Like we could spend a month doing, you know, a focus on one of these, but around Lent, we do need something 6 sessions. So we chose 3 that lent themselves easily to have 6 sessions, and they will be ideal for Lent, but you don't have to use them in Lent. Likewise, if you look at the second row there for all 3 years, the first study we're thinking might work really well during Advent season. So hope, announce the realm of God, and do not fear. We thought those would be really good themes for Lent, for Advent. They are very good themes. But you don't have to use them during Advent. So there are suggestions in the curriculum pieces for how you would use this during Advent. Here are all the different components. So there's and we're going to walk through all of these, but basically there are 4 different kinds of components. There's a congregational guide, which is it's really the anchor to the study for each practice, and it has a lot of different things in it, and we're going to look at that right after this slide. We have infographic posters for each practice, each unit, and I'm using unit and practice. We're kind of using that to mean the same thing. And we're bunching these by 12. So each year we will release, like in July, we will release the first 12 infographic posters if you want to purchase those as a set. And then we also have leaders guides for every age group. The adult reflection guide we pulled out separately. It's a little different than the other age levels, and we'll look at that. It's for adults, it's for reflection, and it's a guided reflection. So it's you can use it just by yourself. As adults don't have to go to a class to use the adult piece of this. There is a leader's guide there. You see in that bullet above it. For groups that want to use the reflection guide, there's a leader's guide for the leader to walk them through that. Like we said, units are 4 sessions, and we'll start releasing them this summer, God willing. So this is the congregational guide. Am I doing the congregational guide, Meg? Yes. Okay. So the first piece in every practice is a foundational essay. One of the joys, if you know the history of the Presbyterian publishing, we were separate. We had curriculum publishing was in the mission agency, and Presbyterian publishing was Westminster John Knox Press. We do books for the church as well. But now that we have merged, this is the first curriculum we're able to do as one company. So we're trying to take advantage of the strengths of both sides of our company. Westminster John Knox Press has a list of hundreds of authors that we all read. They are seminary professors, they are pastors, church leaders. So we've invited 36 of them to write a foundational essay. They are writing, every practice comes with this deep dive to read about what this practice is. And it's these foundational essay writers that identify 4 dimensions or 4 aspects of the practice. And they connect that with a Bible story that illustrates that dimension or that aspect. These are beautiful. They are brilliant. This is the best of our church, really writing for the church. And seminary professors are really loving being able to serve in this way. What we do with this piece then is we meet with all of the age level curriculum writers, and they meet with this author, they read the foundational essay, and then they take those 4 aspects or 4 dimensions and make it appropriate for their age level, how you would talk about that, how you would use that Bible text. Some of them, depending on the age level, may use a different Bible text, because this curriculum is based on the practice and on the aspects. The other thing that's great about the foundational essay, if a church, the pastor may want to develop a sermon series based on this practice, so that, and this is like reading a commentary. It really gives you the basis for preparing a sermon. We listed in the sampler, we just took one of the practices, welcome all, hospitality. Christians are known for hospitality. And so welcome all is one of the 36 practices. And these we listed out here. These are the 4 aspects or dimensions of welcome all that this foundational essay lifted up.
So one of the things that is a part of the congregational guide, like David said, there are lots of pieces in the congregational guide. When we were developing this, well, first of all, we started developing curriculum, and then we said, well, what is it a congregation needs to use this curriculum within the life of the congregation? It's not just pigeonholed just to education, but the whole church. How will they use this? How will they look at practices and maybe study together? And we talked about different things. The foundational essay became a part of the congregational guide, as well as each leader's guide, and in the adult reflection guide. Then we came up with, well, worship helps. If people are studying these practices in education, wouldn't it be wonderful if a church decided to have their worship focus on this practice as well? And so we came up with worship helps. We list the scripture passage for each session. So there are 4 or 6 if you're in Lent, but there are 4 worship helps, 1 for each session. The scripture passage is listed, and as you see there, sometimes it's the same passage and sometimes it's different, like David said, according to age level. But they're all studying the same practice. So if they come at it through, as we say, through a different doorway, you're still entering the same house. They may just come in through a different doorway. Then we list some hymns and songs as suggestions that if they're using this in worship, they might want to consider using that would kind of enhance that theme. We have an area called liturgical actions, which are sometimes those creative aspects of worship that you might want to include, or sometimes just reminders of, oh, this would be a good session to have a renewal of baptism or a litany for justice and peace or something like that. And then we have a section with liturgies with some suggestions, some different parts of worship, calls to worship, prayers, confessions, charges and benedictions, and then some of that, maybe some special things like a litany written for something. So that's our worship help section. David, cafe?
Yeah, the cafe discussion guide is a piece that every week of the study, every session, there's a 1 sheet front and back. The back has information. It's a very abbreviated summary of what the dimension is that week and the Bible story connected to that. And then the front side is really kind of like a placemat, right? I mean, it's a guided discussion that you can use in a group. And this would be perfect for session meetings. A college group could sit down with this. An older high school group could take this to Starbucks and, you know, sit around and do this together. Someone needs to facilitate it, but anyone can. So these are very easy. Meg, we haven't been saying this, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think this whole guide is perforated, right? So
Yes.
you tear these out and then make copies of these, and everyone gets a copy and takes it home. We try to provide something on every one of these that offers a chance to write, you know, something down, like answer something and then discuss what your answer was.
Actually, I do believe all of the pieces of the curriculum, except for that adult reflection guide, are perforated, meaning
Right.
that they can be torn out, handed a session to a teacher or something like that if you needed to be. The other thing, which, you know, this curriculum began very pre-pandemic. The writing began somewhat pre-pandemic, and it was really not until recently when it, you know, feels like it keeps going on forever. But it was written with the sense that, yes, someday we will be together again. However, it is also adaptable. One of the pieces that's very adaptable is this cafe discussion guide. Like David said, easy to sit around if you're in Starbucks or on Zoom, and people have a copy of this, which could be emailed to them or mailed or whatever. This would be an easy guide to have to do that kind of adult, older youth even, conversation with. We do have an intergenerational session, and there's one intergenerational session in each congregational guide. And I'll just zip back to cafe discussion guide. There's 4 of those. I realize we need to say like how many are in. So in the congregational guide, there's 1 foundational essay. There are 4 worship helps, 1 for each session, 4 cafe discussion guides, 1 for each session, 1 intergenerational session. So we did 1 intergenerational session at this time to kind of either be something the whole church could do together as a kickoff, or maybe a wrap up, or it could be used any time. It may be an educational, like Sunday school type session. It could be around a meal. It might be focused on a service project. It was really left up to the writer of the practice. And we also left it up to them if they wanted to encompass an idea of the whole practice in one, or take one of those aspects and really develop it or jump off of that. So it's kind of its own unique thing. It doesn't really follow the pattern of the others, except it does follow the format. So it follows the same way a session will be, and we'll look at those in just a second. It follows the flow of a session, but what is in it that people would do together really depends, and it makes it kind of special to be in a special event of some sort. So there's one intergenerational session. We have an area or a section in it called Curriculum Connections, and there are, it's a one page, two sides, but it covers all 4 sessions of a unit. And what we have done there, we've just, as you can see here, for the first session, as this in the sampler.
I know. I can't find a place that I want to be.
Whoops.
I want to be in a lounge.
There we go. So what it does is it talks about a few highlights. It doesn't cover everything that each age level is doing, but a couple highlights, so that if you are looking at this as a whole congregation, somebody who's in leadership could go, oh, this is what somebody else is doing this same session. We might want to piggyback with them, or we'll definitely want to get them to share that with another group at some point. So this just helps kind of some coordination and just also some interest of what's going on. Somebody shared that this might be helpful for even parents of children to see this, to go, oh, did you do this in Sunday school today? So it gives them a clue of what maybe their children are doing. Hopefully they're all talking about it. That's our goal. We have a piece, again, in each congregational guide. There is one of these that covers the whole practice, and it's called Practicing the Practice at Home. And it is basically a series of ideas for what people can do at home. It came out of the idea that the children may be in Sunday school learning about this practice and then go home and don't really have the support, or the parents aren't sure what this practice is about if they're not also engaged. And so this was a way to kind of bring that into the home. What are things that families can do together to support and learn more about this practice during the week? It does cover the whole practice. We have ideas in it for people with primarily younger children, people with somewhat older children, and then some ideas for a mix of ages. There's also a section that's called Family Conversation Starters. And these are just some conversation starters that you're sitting around dinner or maybe in the car. These would be good things to just start a conversation with. This again would be a great piece to do if you're doing some online work. It would be supportive of parents, maybe saying this week, try one of these activities. This is found in the Congregational Guide. It's also in the Young Children and Multi-Age Children's Leaders Guide. So they have it as well. And like David said, it can be torn out, photocopied. If you get the downloadable version, it can be emailed. So it's real easy to get to people. And the last thing that's in the Congregational Guide are some children's worship bulletins or activity sheets. So again, imagine the day when children are walking through the doors of the sanctuary, and you can hand these out to children to do during worship. And imagining that maybe the whole congregation is looking at a practice for a period of time. So there are 4 of these, one for each session. And they basically have some more ways to practice, some things to take with them as they go. There's always a game or a puzzle as well. And then on the other side, we have an adapted Bible story and a coloring picture. And that adapted Bible story comes from the Young Children Leaders Guide. And when we go through that, but I'll mention it now, there's always an adapted Bible story with the young children. And so we've included that Bible story on this children's worship bulletin. So that's pretty much the Congregational Guide. Lots of pieces that a congregation can use in a lot of different ways. It kind of, like David said, undergirds and supports. It's very foundational. A small church might want to use this if they don't have a wide variety of ages. This could plug into a lot of different ways they could be using it. A larger church may use it more as a coordination piece and give some pieces to different people in their program. This is just a sample of one of the infographic posters. Like David said, we're going to have a set of 12 infographic posters for each year, one per practice. They will be larger this time. If you know about the Big God, Big Questions infographic posters, they were so well received and people said, more, please. And so we did create more, but they also said bigger, bigger, please. So we made them bigger. So these are 18 by 24, kind of very full-size poster feel. They could be framed, but we also have them as a download where you can print them to any size you want or project them. They focus on a practice. This one just shows you what Welcome All is. Different ways that people can engage visually. We try to make them very multi-age appropriate so that young children might get something out of them as well as adults. Sometimes they may skew more one way or the other, but they're really useful for anyone. There will also be we're calling it the Bible Basics set of 12 posters. That will just be 12 for the whole run of the game. And those are going to be your kind of basic Bible sort of posters. We are going to take 9 of the Big God, Big Questions posters and reformat them. And then we're adding 3 new ones. And that will be a set then that you can have that does things like the New Testament, the Old Testament, the Gospels. I can't think of them all right now, but there will be a Bible Basic set that'll also be available. So you'll purchase, what? No, go ahead.
And that you could use with this curriculum or not with this curriculum, right? That's just a good set to have up in your church to orient people on the Bible.
Absolutely. And that's kind of where we got the idea to go ahead and republish them with this curriculum, because so many people said these are so useful for just basic Sunday school Bible study, having on the walls of your church classroom sort of thing. So yeah, we really felt that they were really useful and to make bigger and available and add some more to them. So they'll be sold as sets, but you can also buy individual posters from either set, but only as download. So the hard copy posters you can get in the set, but the download you can get in the set or individual. Okay, we're going to walk through a session and take a look at the format of what a session looks like. We're going to go inside the multi-age children to do that. But all the age levels, the young children, multi-age youth, adult leaders guide, adult reflection guide, and the intergenerational session in the congregational guide, they all follow this same basic format. They may look slightly different, especially in the adult reflection guide, and David will walk through that in a little bit. So this is the basic format. The first page, again, like I said, it may look slightly different, but we'll have most of these components. There will be something there. This is kind of a template page that would be in every leader's guide. We'll say something about that age level. This is about benefits of a multi-age setting. We have a section called activity symbols. That's not in the adult guide, but it's in all the other age levels and in the intergenerational. That kind of tells you at a glance what kind of activities each thing is in the session itself, so that leaders can look at it and say, oh, great, we love this kind of activity, or boy, we don't do enough of that kind. It's also a helpful guide for when the curriculum writers are writing to know that they want to have a variety of activities that they present, not all arts and crafts, or everything has food involved in it this week or something like that. Then we have a section on just a note about some very basic supplies. We, of course, probably use many others, but every session notes the supplies that are used by the activity in which they're being used. This is just kind of your general note that you'll want some of these real basic things available. Then when we look at the next page, it's the overview page for the whole practice. So we look at what does this practice, this one happens to come from Welcome All, what does this mean? What does the Bible say about this practice? And then how does this age group understand this practice? So that will be coordinated to what that age group and practice are. We give a little bit of information about the infographic poster here, telling what it is for this particular practice, and then some information about how to order them. And then we just have some other information. This one for children has about including children with disabilities and special needs, and a note about our flyaway books. Then when we turn the page, we come to the session overview. That was kind of our template page and our unit overview. Now, when we look at the session overview, this is going to pretty much look like curriculum, but I'll kind of walk through it just so you can see where the things are on the page. The first up there is the title. And the foundational essay writers have, as David said, we've asked them, there aren't necessarily 4 aspects to every practice in the world, but we have asked them to come up with 4. What would be 4 aspects or dimensions to the practice of hospitality, welcoming? And so they've kind of listed those out. And we've told the curriculum writers, you can create a title that uses that aspect or dimension, but maybe fits more of what the age level might be doing. So those titles may look slightly different, but they're all, every session is based on the same aspect across the age levels. So this one is Welcome to God's World. The scripture is listed right under it. And then we go through 4 questions. Or well, first we look at a goal. There's a goal. There are the activity symbols on that page, so you don't always have to flip back to the front. There is a little note about our bit.ly web addresses, and we use a lot of internet connected related activities because we have access to them and there are good things out there. We have created bit.lys, just short little ways to use the web that are case sensitive. So you have to put them in with the caps and the no caps and things like that. And those will be listed in the downloadable materials. Those are all clickable hyperlinks. So that's nice. And then there's a prayer for the leader. And then we have our 4 questions. So what is this particular session about? What is the Bible story in this session? How will, again, this age group, here it's children, connect to this practice? And then what needs to happen before the session? And this part here is anything that needs a lot of extra work. Maybe it doesn't include things like you have to make photocopies or you have to cut out 10 squares from something. It really is those things that you might need to do some extra prep for if you choose something in that area. The inside of the session then is, again, a flow of the session starts with getting started. We had first come up with lots of cute little catchy phrases and decided that they were not very meaningful to people who just wanted to know where to go in the session and how to get through a session. So we went back to, let's just tell people what is happening. This is where you start. So we have getting started. And in this section, we have some sort of arrival activity as people come in, what can they be doing? And then we have an open ritual that's a common open ritual across all the age levels. And we did that will happen in each session for that practice because we want to ritualize it. We want it to be something that is practiced. We are also hoping that maybe then it might be used in worship or at home. If children and adults are doing something that maybe they start talking about it and say, hey, let's start dinner time with this song or this prayer or something. So we have an opening ritual there that, like I said, goes through all 4 sessions at all age levels. The next thing we have is introducing the practice. And so we just kind of, what is this aspect of the practice about? And what's a way to kind of, I always call it, whet your appetite. This is the appetizer of the meal. Then we find the practice in the Bible. And so this is our Bible study. Looking again, it could be from the Hebrew scriptures, it could be from the gospel, it could be an epistle, it could combine a couple if necessary. So somewhere, where is it that we see this practice happening and how do we understand that from the Bible as our foundation? The next section is called Finding the Practice All Around Us. And in children, we talk about all around us. And in youth and adults, we talk about then and now. So we do a little more historical, theological, different aspects of where we see that practice. With the children, we really try to look at where do we see it happening around us, since there's just a different sense of historical sense of development with children. Then we have a section on practicing the practice. And these are just a couple options, ways that the participants can actually practice this practice in the classroom at the time. And following Jesus is our closing or our sending out, because that's what we're being called to do, is to follow Jesus. We have sections in the curriculum that have arrows, but down at the bottom, I put a big asterisk because we've changed those. In the sampler, our sampler is our best guess at what things will look like, but we're still tweaking. And we realized that those arrows, we wanted a big asterisk instead. So those will be asterisks. Those are just sidebar type notes, things that might enhance the lesson, give an alternative or a note to the leader. There's where you find all of your supply lists and the sidebars. We tried to keep the sidebars pretty open for notes. Occasionally there'll be a textual sidebar in there, but those are where you'll find the supplies, and they will be listed for each section. So when you get to that, you know exactly what you need. Good thing to read through ahead of time instead of, there won't be a list at the beginning of the session. They're all where you find them in the session. And then those little tiny colored dots are those activity symbols that are just, like I said, an easy reference to see what kind of activities are happening in the session. There are resource pages with each age level. In everything but the adult leader's guide just has black and white, but all the other age levels have color or black and white, or and black and white, and or. There is, like I said, an adapted Bible story in every young children's leader's guide session. And for the multi-age children, it's up to the curriculum writer if they feel they need one, depending on that Bible passage. So they may include one. They may also have the children read from the Bible, or they may do both. And this is true also in the intergenerational session. David, youth.
So the youth follows the same format as the other age levels. When we were putting this together, we made the decision to just make one youth study that covers younger youth as well as older youth. So it's quite an age range. We know that, our writers know that. And so what we've done is, while we're following the same direction through the session, there are options in each of them that would be a little bit more fitted for younger adolescents, and another option that might be for older. So any leader could kind of figure out which option would work best depending on their group. And yeah, it seems to be working pretty well. The adult reflection guide is for adults that want to reflect.
And be guided.
And be guided. This is really the most different piece of the curriculum. It's not written in a instructional style like the leader's guides are. This piece really is a guided reflection. I actually wanted to call it a guided reflection because that's what they are. If you give this to any adult, they can take it home and they can read it by themselves. It prompts them throughout, from beginning to end, to reflect on how they connect this practice with their own life and where they see it, and how they want to deepen the practice. We didn't choose the name guided reflection because there's also that might confuse people to think these are all like meditative pieces. It's not a meditation manual, but it is a guided reflection. It walks you through this. The leader's guide for the adult, if you've got a group of adults using this and they want to talk about what they did in the adult reflection guide, and how they responded to it, the adult leader's guide helps a leader work with a group that have used the adult reflection guide. We also put down here, we are, with those foundational writers, when we were meeting with the curriculum writers, and we spend 20 minutes or longer talking about what they wrote in that foundational guide, we thought this would be really helpful to make kind of a trailer for each of these practices that we can offer churches free of charge, but particularly for adult groups that get together, they might want to hear the foundational guide author talk about what they were thinking, and kind of walk through those 4 aspects, which could be just kind of a prompt to get a group started. So quickly, this is what it looks like. The Adult Reflection Guide, again, they do start with a 2-page overview of the whole practice before you get started. This overview identifies what the 4 aspects that you're going to be looking at are. And then the how to use this guide, we're trying to encourage the user to use this however they want, but to mark this book up, write on it, make it work for you. Don't do everything if you don't want to do everything, but we give you a lot of links and a lot of things that you might want to look at as you deepen your practice. And then each session looks like this. It's got the same flow, like Meg said. It's, you get started, there's a Bible section. The Bible section and the then and now section are not, you don't see it so much in this example here, but these are the heavier pieces of each session where we're really trying to give some information to adults about how does this Bible study connect with this aspect of the practice, and where has the church, the community, practiced this. A number of these talk about confessions, when the church has stood up and taken a stand on things, and how we connect this practice with the faith community through time. Practicing the practice then gives you some ideas of how to deepen your own practice, and then we summarize each session and have a little reflection moment.
This is just telling you some of the ways or how to order. This is also in the sampler as well as on our Follow Me curriculum site page, and I'll have that listed in just a moment. But just to show you that there are different ways you can purchase it, we have a small scale package, which would include 1 congregational guide, a multi-age children's guide, a leader's guide, and 5 adult reflection guides. So if you don't have, all those different age levels, but multi-age will kind of cover it, that gives you that option. We have a large scale package, which includes 1 of everything and 10 adult reflection guides. And then you can always purchase things individually. We also have the adult reflection guide available with some bulk pricing. If you can, you want to use that smaller, large scale, but add some more guides to it. That was the infographic poster sets that I mentioned. In print or download, you can order them as a set. And if you want them only as an individual poster, it's download only. And then you just, make the choice. Do I want print or download? And you go to the pcusastore.com/curriculum or call their customer service number. That curriculum sampler with the first session of Welcome All that we just showed you has actually the first session of every age group. We just showed you the multi-age, but each age group is in that sampler. It's available now. It's on the website, the pcusastore.com Follow Me curriculum. You have to put that www in. It's very important. I don't know why, but it is on this link. So be sure and do that. And then cap that Follow Me curriculum. And you will see a lot of information about Follow Me. You can sign up for email alerts about upcoming things or webinars. But the sampler is there that you can download. If you want to print it, it's very big. It's about 90 some pages because it has everything of 1 session in it. But you are more than welcome to download that and share that. We also have a trailer. And I'm going to hold off on the trailer, I think, just for a moment, because I want to open this up for any questions. And I realize we're about 10 minutes to the end. But there is a wonderful, beautiful trailer that we're super proud of that is on that curriculum website as well. So let's open up for questions.
There are 2 questions so far. One is the adult reflection guide. Is there only 1 adult reflection guide for all 4 weeks?
The adult reflection guide has 4 sessions in it as well. or 6, the one that's for Lent.
So it's for each practice. Yes.
Each practice, yeah. The adult reflection guide for the practice has 4 chapters, right? 4 sessions in it.
Okay. An additional question, can you get both the print and the download? Can you purchase those together?
We don't have that yet, and we've had that question, but at this point, you purchase either the print, I mean, you could purchase them, but yes, right now it's 2 prices. It's not like you get the print and there's a bonus download or something. But that might be a question. I've had that question asked already about some other curriculum as well. So I think that something we'll take back and have to have a conversation about.
Yeah, makes sense.
If you could stop your screen share, we could go back to the gallery view and then see what other questions there might be.
Sure. Whoops, stop share. Come on, I'm having trouble. There we go. Stop share. There we go.
And comments also, if anybody has like ideas, or not that we can change a whole lot right now, but comments are always helpful. We can do what we can.
This appeals to me as a lifetime educator, but I'm wondering, thinking about our church and our congregation, we have 285 members in our church. Would you suggest that we have a leadership team that deals with this in the sense of being an oversight body and then having individual leaders that are designated for the youth and the adults and the multi-age and so forth? I'm trying to figure out what would be the best way to introduce this to a congregation. I'm an elder, and I'm on our Christian formation team. So I'm trying to conceptualize what's the best way to introduce this initially.
I have to tell you, I think that's a wonderful idea, because so many times we just say curriculum is part of the education program, and we're really looking at this as a whole church. And we've talked about it, new curriculum for the whole church. And really that it's more than just a Sunday school lesson.
Yeah.
And so starting that way, as opposed to starting with just in the Sunday school and then trying to bring it in. Not everybody can do that or will do that, but that's a great way to start, is form a team, get some worship people in there, obviously get your pastor involved, or any of the education people as well. But that idea of having a team that really looks at this, of how does the church study and practice a practice. We have to use the word practice as both a verb and a noun, and it gets very cumbersome. But how do we practice a practice as a church? And I think it's going to be, that's like, I get goosebumps when I think about, that's my hope that we're doing. I think and we talk about transformative. I think it is transformative.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck. I hope you have to let us know. Keep us posted.
Well, this is right at the sweet spot of what we're trying to do as a church. So it comes at the right time.
It's very practical.
Yes, and if you start using this in some way or another, do keep us posted. It would be really helpful to hear your feedback. Curriculum is a weird thing. On one hand, it's very responsive, and on the other hand, it's a huge steamship that's hard to turn. We work a year in advance, but we also take feedback, and things happen and things change because of feedback. Not in huge, quick turnaround. Sometimes it takes a little while, but it's helpful to hear how you all are using this at some point.
I will say, until someone else asks a question, that we hope big churches, that's why we have all the different individual age levels. But what we heard a lot, and what we really designed, we had heavy in mind small churches, and how are small churches going to be able to concentrate on a practice. And that's why that congregational guide really is going to be enough for a lot of our small churches that are really led by a solo pastor, hopefully, although it doesn't need to be. A really an elder or someone could pick this up and have enough really to adapt for what would work in a smaller church community.
Lucas, you ask a great question. I would say we haven't thought of that, but anybody else that wants to think of how we could do a denomination-wide education. One of the things that's I'm excited about tangentially is that the Worship and Music Conference at Montreat is offering a confirmation class that I'm going to lead. And so we're doing it for basically people who would bring their middle schoolers who might have, they might come from very small churches with just one or two, or they might have a larger youth group they want to bring, but we're kind of doing it as a denominational confirmation class that then they go, we don't confirm them there. They would go back into their home church and they need to have a mentor or two with them. So we're trying that out in a way. It would be really exciting to think about how we could do Follow Me as a practice as a denomination. So I don't know how to do that, but I'm excited about the idea.
We have time for one last quick question, then we need to do a quick wrap up at the end.
Watch the trailer. It's a
Yeah,
great
I'll watch the trailer.
3-minute summary to show your church.
I posted some links on the chat, and it has a trailer and a sample, PDF sample that you can download.
Thank you, Marissa.
Is the trailer on the website so they can go right to it?
Yep.
Okay,
It's
wonderful.
on PCUSA, www.pcusastore.com/follow me curriculum.
Couple other comments in the chat y'all may want to look at in the transcript about just the formatting and encouragement on your efforts. So
Thank you. The other thing is, if you are interested in the slideshow we just did, the PowerPoint as a more in-depth presentation for your congregation, Katie Snyder is our marketing person and takes care of all that. If she's at K Snyder, SNYDER at presbypub.com. Marissa, you want to drop that in real quick if you can, K Snyder. Anyway, if you contact her, she can, and that it may get put up on that Follow Me curriculum website, but I know if you contact her, she can get this to you. If you want the PowerPoint we just did. Oh, I think you don't even have to do that. It's part of APSI now. So whatever you all get from APSI that you have access to, they've told us for each workshop, we put this in there. So
right.
And we have a last session of bookstore. So if you can show up, it's 4:15, and Katie will be there. So if you have any more questions, you can answer those.
yeah.
And Lucas has already looked at the trailer, and he notes that the closed captions are coming through as random symbols, so they need to be checked and see what's going on with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know we even had closed captions.
I didn't either.
I haven't seen them.
All right. Well, thank you so much. As you can tell, we're pretty excited about this. And if you have any questions in the future, you can contact any of us, David or I or Katie, and we'd love to talk with you more. We're more than happy to talk with, if you have a presbytery group or your church wants to hear more about it, we're here for you.